Hey folks, it is David Wills at TED-IELTS here, and today we're going to be looking at some sports vocabulary. This should help you with IELTS because the topic of sports comes up quite often. So today we're going to learn different words to describe sports in different ways. We will learn the name of different sports, which hopefully you're going to know a lot of these. We're also going to learn some equipment that they use in sports. We're going to learn the different places, locations for sports, and I'll mention a few verbs that are particular to each sport. I think this will be quite surprising to a lot of people because sport tends to have very specific vocabulary. Now, you're not necessarily going to need to know all of this. If you don't play tennis, you will never be required to know what it is that you use to hit the ball with, or what even you say about hitting the ball. Instead, this is going to be useful for you if you do sports and want to talk about sports, or you really like one particular kind of sport. And that means it will help you for the speaking test. So as we go through this presentation, I'm going to give you a moment to think about the answer after showing you a picture of each sport. The reason for this is simply that it will help you to learn better. The more you have to think, the more information you will retain. If I just tell you the words, you'll forget it quite quickly. You should also take notes, particularly of any words that you did not know or that you want to remember. Feel free to pause the video or to change the speed to make it faster if it is very easy for you, or slower if it is a little more difficult. First of all, we can see this sport here. So what is this called? This is kickboxing. Kickboxing. You can see these two guys, they're fighting. And so we have to ask, where are they fighting? Well, we would call this a ring, or a boxing ring. Now, normally a ring is a circle, like a ring you wear in your finger, but in fighting, we call the place where they fight a ring. In terms of equipment, what do you need to do kickboxing? Well, you need gloves, boxing gloves. You don't really need much else. You can see in terms of a uniform or a kit, they just wear shorts. And they have some kind of footwear. It is like a sock, but not exactly a sock. What about actions, verbs for kickboxing? Well, you could say, I'm going to do kickboxing. Or specifically, when they're fighting, you might say they kick or they punch. Now, as this is kickboxing, kicking is the primary action. Hopefully you know this next sport. This is, of course, basketball. Basketball. This is very popular around the world, so maybe you know some of the words for this. Where do they play basketball? Well, they play in a basketball court. A basketball court. The courts, if it's a professional game, will be inside a stadium. A basketball or sports stadium. But if you're just playing with friends, you probably play outside on a court. In terms of equipment, to play basketball, you need a hoop. A hoop is the thing that this man is holding onto. You put the ball through the hoop. You can see there he is holding the net as well. This is the net. And of course, you need a ball. I'll try not look at the very obvious things going forward. In terms of actions, well, when they put the ball to the ground and then back up again repeatedly, this is called dribbling. When they slam the ball through the hoop, it is called dunking or slam dunking. And to throw the ball towards the hoop, you can say shoot or take a shot. Okay, our next sport, what is this? Well, this person is climbing. Specifically, this is rock climbing. Rock climbing. So here's our vocabulary. Where do you do this? Well, in this picture, the person is climbing a cliff. A cliff. This is like a wall on a mountain. It tends to be very steep. If you're going to do this indoors, you would say go to a climbing wall or a climbing gym. For rock climbing, you actually have quite a lot of equipment, well, depending on how you do it. You may have a helmet, you may have ropes, you may have a harness. So this would be something that goes around your body and attaches to the rope. You also will have climbing shoes, and you might have a bag of chalk to put on your hands. In terms of actions, of course, climb is the most important verb. You climb up. We don't really climb down very much, although you can. In climbing, if you have a rope, you would rappel down. This means to go down the side of something steep on a rope. This next sport is very popular in my country, Scotland. It is called rugby. Rugby. So, you can see these men here playing rugby. Well, where are they? They're on the rugby pitch. The rugby pitch. You might also say the rugby field, but where I come from, we say pitch. Again, professionally, this would be in a stadium. In terms of equipment, well, you need the ball, of course. You need a lot of people, although that's not really equipment. You've got your rugby kit, that is the clothes they wear. But at either end of the rugby pitch, you're going to have posts. This is where you would try to kick the ball through and try to put the ball under when you score a try. Now, the actions in rugby, the aim is to score a try or to score several tries. This means to put the ball down at the end of the pitch. You can also take a penalty kick. That means when you kick the ball. And you can see the man in green, he is trying to tackle the man in blue, I think, unless he has fallen over. So to tackle someone. Oof, this looks painful. So we've already had kickboxing. Well, these guys aren't kicking each other. These are just punching. So this is regular boxing. So this happens again in a boxing ring. In terms of equipment, they wear boxing gloves. So that's special gloves you put on your hand. And actions, of course, mostly punching. You can see they just try to punch each other until one of them is left standing and the other is not. You might also grapple. This is when they kind of hold each other. They're not allowed to do too much, but they might lean against each other, grab each other. And when you try to get out of the way of a punch, we call it dodging. So dodge the punch. I think many of you will know this. This is skiing. Skiing. A very unusual word in English because it has I twice in the middle, right next to each other. Where do we do this? Well, you can do it on a mountain or on a fake mountain. In either case, it would be a ski slope. Slope means an area of land that goes downwards. Could be a steep slope or a gentle slope. Equipment. Well, of course, you need skis. That is the thing you attach to your feet or your boots. You need poles. That is what you hold in your hands. And of course, because it is very cold, you'll need some warm clothes. In terms of actions, well, the word ski is actually a verb, so we can talk about skiing down the mountain. But you might also jump if you're a very advanced skier and you're doing some amazing tricks. Speaking of amazing tricks, do you know this sport? This is skateboarding. Skateboarding. So the thing the man holds in his hand there is a skateboard. Now, if you're going to go skateboarding, you can do broadly two kinds. You can go to a skate park and use the equipment, or you can do street skating. So you just go out on the street and you find somewhere interesting to skateboard. For equipment, well, the skateboard is the object he is holding there, But you might have things like ramps that you can use to skate on. Now, actions, we don't need to learn too much here. This can be very complicated because skateboarding has its own vocabulary that most English speakers don't really know. But we talk about to ride a skateboard. We can talk about to do tricks. They all have their own names. To grind, this is when you're on the skateboard and the skateboard is going to go along a pole or the edge of a piece of rock or something like that, the pavement. So there are many different tricks that you can do on a skateboard. So this is like surfing, but you can see there's something else attached to the surfboard. So this is technically windsurfing. Windsurfing. So where do we do this? Well, of course we do it at sea. The equipment, you're going to need your surfboard, and the surfboard is attached to a sail that will catch the wind and make you go very fast. So actions, well, you're going to need to swim a little bit, I think, when you fall off or when you're going to get on the board. You can see this person is jumping, and of course you can use surf as a verb, or windsurf is also a verb. This sport is very popular in some countries, but not at all popular in others. It is called cricket. Cricket. So cricket is played on a cricket field, and the man here is holding a bat and he's trying to hit a ball. And behind him, you can see there are 3 stumps. So actions here, well, when you throw the ball, we call it to bowl, bowling. And when you use the bat to hit the ball, you are batting. And these 2 men in the background here, they are fielding. So that means they're trying to catch the ball and then return it to the center of the field. Again, there are a lot of specific terms for this. If you like cricket, maybe you already know these, or I would advise you to learn them so that you can talk about it in IELTS. You would never be asked randomly about cricket or any other sport, but if there's something very interesting to you, you can talk about it. Now, cricket is very similar to this sport, the American version of sorts. This is baseball. Baseball. Here, we would call this a field. Again, you would have a bat. You can see it's a very different shaped bat, but it's the same. Instead of saying bowl, they say pitch. But they also call it to bat when you hit the ball with the bat. So speaking of hitting balls with things, here's another sport. This one actually comes from my country. This is golf. Golf. Now you do this on a golf course. A golf course. And the thing, it's like a stick that you use to hit the ball, is called a club. A club. We say golf club. In terms of actions, well, when you hit the ball very far, we say to drive. So here, this man is driving. When you just tap the ball a little bit from close range, it is putting. And if you're going medium distance and the ball is going to go up in the air and then try to land gently somewhere, you say chipping. So here's another sport. This is called badminton. Badminton. Now this is played on a badminton court. The woman here is holding a racket. So you can see we have many different names for these things that we use to hit stuff. This is a racket. And the thing she is hitting is not a ball. This is a shuttlecock. Shuttlecock. And the aim is to hit it over the net. So the net is the thing in the middle that you have to try and hit the shuttlecock over. In terms of verbs, actions for this, I'm not really sure. I don't play this a lot, and you don't really need to know too many of these. But the first time that you hit it in any sort of turn is called a serve, to serve. Now, I'll keep this up for tennis because this is actually the same language we use, even though it's a very different sport. There will be some different technical words, but basically it's played on a court with a racket, a ball, a net, and you can serve and return the ball. This sport here is peculiar to cold countries, I think, like Canada, Russia, and so forth. This is called ice hockey. Ice hockey. So we play this on an ice rink. A rink. Again, a new word for this. Ice rink. The equipment, well, you use a stick to hit a puck. So the object that you are hitting around the rink is called a puck, and you use these hockey sticks to hit it. In terms of actions, well, we can shoot and tackle and so forth, but the one that is peculiar to hockey is fight. This is a big part of ice hockey. People are always fighting, or so it seems from the news. Here's another sport. This one's less common, I think. Archery is the name. Archery. So we do this on an archery range. A range is a long place where you're shooting at a target. We use a bow and arrow. So the bow is the thing you hold, and the arrow is the thing you send flying down the range towards a target. The action, of course, is to shoot, but there are many others like sight that are specific to the sport. You don't need to know these unless you're very interested in archery. Right, so that's all our sports now, and we're going to take a look at a few questions and see how we can approach IELTS questions about sport. In the IELTS speaking test, there will be 3 parts, and they each serve very different functions. First of all, we're going to have this short conversation where they'll ask you easy questions like, what's your favorite sport? Do you often watch sport on TV? And what's the most popular sport in your country? So I might say, oh, my favorite sport is football. I've played it since I was a child, and these days I don't play it that much, but I still watch it on TV sometimes. So that would be my answer. Just very short, very simple, basic facts. You don't need to say much for part 1. For part 2, you're going to be asked, or you're going to be given a cue card that will prompt you to talk for about 2 minutes. In this case, describe a game or sport you enjoy playing. So you should read the cue card carefully for ideas. You'll have 1 minute to prepare, and then you can give your answer. For part 3, the questions are going to be more difficult. These are going to be more abstract, and they're going to require you to say more and think more carefully. So you might be asked things like, what are the benefits of playing a sport? Do you think the types of sport that are popular will change in future? Or what are the advantages of hosting different international sports events in a country? So you have to think quite carefully about these in order to answer them well. Right, that's all for today, folks. If you want to learn more about IELTS, head over to www.TED-IELTS.com. If you want to find out about sports or speaking, you can just type those into the search bar and they'll give you lots of great resources. It's all absolutely free to use. I'll see you next time.